Hello students, let us go through one more sum based on graphical method. The sum is solve the following simultaneous equations graphically, and the equations given are x minus 3y is equal to 1 and 3x minus 2y plus 4 is equal to 0. Now let's do it. We already know how to form the table, how to plot the points, how to rearrange the given equation so that we can find the values, right? So let's start with the very first equation. The very first equation is x minus 3y is equal to 1. What do we do first? We write the equation in the form of either x is equal to something or y is equal to something. For that, we need to shift the variable with the bigger coefficient towards the constant, right? So the rule is the bigger coefficient variable and the constant should be together, something which we have learned, right? So let's do it. Here the bigger coefficient variable is 3y. So let us shift 3y to the other side. We get x is equal to 1 plus 3y. Once we get the equation in this required form of x is equal to something, let us now form the table. In the table, you need to write x, y, x comma y. Now let us assume the values of the variable which is there in the right hand side, and here we have y in the right hand side. Let us assume any 4 values of y. We generally take 0, 1, 2, 3 if you remember. Just one thing, if you actually see this sum, if you take y as 3, 3 3s are 9 plus 1 will be 10. You will get the value of x as 10, and 10 on the x axis you cannot plot, because if you remember we had spoken on the x axis 9 is the maximum that you can get, right? So instead of taking 0, 1, 2, 3, we will take 0, 1, 2 and minus 1. So when the number, if we assume and if the value is bigger than what we can plot on the graph, in such a scenario we generally take the negative assumption, right? So what we do is here 0, 1, 2 and minus 1 rather than 3, because if you take 3, x will be 10 and 10 you cannot plot on the graph paper, right? You assume 4 values of y. Now let's go on substituting the values of y and you get the corresponding values of x. Let's see the calculations. When y is equal to 0, we know that x is equal to 1 plus 3y. Let us substitute y as 0. You get 3 into 0. You get 1 plus 0. That's 1. So when y is equal to 0, x is equal to 1, and the point is, as you all can see, 1 comma 0. Now when y is equal to 1, let's check the calculations. You get x is equal to 1 plus 3 into 1. You get x is equal to 1 plus 3. You get x is equal to 4. So when y is equal to 1, x is equal to 4, and the point is 4 comma 1. Now let us assume y as 2. Let's check the calculations. When y is equal to 2, x is equal to 1 plus 3 into 2. That's 1 plus 6. That is equal to 7. So when y is equal to 2, x is equal to 7, and the point, as you all can see, is 7 comma 2. When y is equal to minus 1, you get x is equal to 1 plus 3 into minus 1. That's 1. 3 into minus 1 is minus 3. So you get 1 minus 3, which is equal to minus 2. So when y is equal to minus 1, x is equal to minus 2, and the point is minus 2 comma minus 1. You get the 4 points. The first table is done. Now let's move on to the second equation, which is 3x minus 2y plus 4 is equal to 0. Now as the rule says, the bigger coefficient should be along with the constant, right? So here the bigger coefficient is 3x, the constant is 4. So what we can do is we can shift minus 2y to the other side, and you get 3x plus 4 is equal to plus 2y. But we don't want the value of 2y, we want the value of y. So what we need to do is, as we used to do in the previous sums, take this 2 to the denominator and you get y is equal to 3x plus 4 upon 2. And if you all remember, I told you all, don't cancel this 2 and 4 because there is a plus sign, right? So don't do that. It should be y is equal to 3x plus 4 upon 2. Denominator is 2, so you can assume the values of x as 0, 2, 4, minus 2, or 0, 2, 4, 6. You can also assume 0, 1, 2, 3 because when the denominator is 2, there is not much of a problem, right? Let's draw the table. In the table it will be x, y, x comma y. You need to assume the values of x because x is in the right hand side, and we start with 0. When x is equal to 0, let's see the calculations. The calculations are 3 into 0 plus 4 upon 2. That's 0 plus 4 upon 2. That's 4 upon 2, and 4 upon 2, as we all know, is 2. So when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 2, and the point is 0 comma 2. Now let's move on to the second value of x, that is 2, 0, 2, right? Let's see the calculations. When x is equal to 2, you get y is equal to 3 into 2 plus 4 upon 2. That's 6 plus 4 upon 2. That's 10 upon 2, which is equal to 5. So when x is equal to 2, y is equal to 5, and the point is 2 comma 5. Now let's take the next value of x, that's 4. When x is equal to 4, you get y is equal to 3 into 4 plus 4 upon 2. That's 12 plus 4 upon 2. That's 16 upon 2. That's 8. So when x is equal to 4, y is equal to 8, and the point is 4 comma 8. Let's move on to the next value of x, that's minus 2. As we all know, we assume 0 to 4 minus 2 when the denominator is 2, right? Let's see the calculations now. Be a little careful because it's a negative value, so calculations you all need to be little careful from the silly mistakes perspective, right? So let's do that. When x is minus 2, you get y is equal to 3 into minus 2 plus 4 upon 2. That's minus 6 plus 4 upon 2. That's minus 2 upon 2, which is equal to minus 1. So when x is equal to minus 2, y is equal to minus 1, and the point is minus 2 comma minus 1. Now when you get both the tables, we move on to graph. Lines, axis, origin, scale, and don't forget the question number. Let's start plotting the points from the first table. The very first point, as you all can see, is 1 comma 0. So let's plot 1 comma 0. Because the y coordinate is 0, it will be on the x axis at point 1. The next point is 4 comma 1, which will be in the first quadrant. That's 4 comma 1 for you. 7 comma 2 again in the first quadrant. That's 7 comma 2. And minus 2 comma minus 1. Minus 2 comma minus 1 will be in the third quadrant. As you all can see, all the 4 points are collinear. Join them. Don't forget to write the equation on it. Which equation is to be written? The equation which is given in the question, right? Let's move on to the next table now. In the next table, the very first point is 0 comma 2. So let's assume, let's plot 0 comma 2 because the x coordinate is 0. The point will be on the y axis, and it is 0 comma 2. So on the y axis at point 2, right? 2 comma 5 in the first quadrant. 4 comma 8 in the first quadrant. Minus 2 comma minus 1 again in the third quadrant, right? The points are collinear. We join them. We write the equation on it. Once you get both the lines, just check the point of intersection, and it is very clearly minus 2 comma minus 1. And because the point of intersection is minus 2 comma minus 1 on the main answer sheet below the tables, you need to write the final answer that the solution of the given simultaneous equation is x comma y, which is minus 2 comma minus 1. As simple as that.